See, when you look at a decade and a half, we had bulk of our inventory only from one country, one superpower. Now, Cold War had its own dimension. Now, nobody is ever able to predict as to how things will happen. End of the Cold War, USSR collapsing, the entire assets getting distributed into so many countries. So we were dependent on Ukraine, we were dependent on Russia, we were dependent on Belarus. What do we do? So you can't change an inventory overnight. And that is the time two decisions were taken. One is to diversify from countries of origin. And second, that we must get onto the Atmanirbharta at the earliest. And this kind of a momentum came in the last couple of years, where there is one very interesting thing, Prafulji, which I must tell you. We had a thought process that everything works on transfer of technology. And the government took a decision, no, hereafter, we are not going to pay royalty, we are not going to wait for the transfer of technology, absorption completely. Taking years, if you say that, okay, absorb in 10 years, it's not absorbed in 20 years. And by that time, there is another model.
Absolutely.
A new technology has come. Now, this time cycle for new technology discovery has compressed.
Absolutely.
Every 18 months, there is a new technology. Now, are we going to still follow those luxurious timelines? No. So that is when we thought the appropriate model is a joint venture. And BrahMos is a successful model that AK-203 is a successful model. Now C-295 transport aircrafts with Airbus, that is a successful model. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to go in for joint venture where we do not have the technology, but we need technology from abroad. So, and the choice for choosing an Indian partner, whether it is in the public sector or private sector, or you form a company like AK-2003, IRRPL. It's a company which has been formed with Russians and with the ordnance factory. BrahMos, similar thing. But C-295, it is private, Tata's, and which means we have tested these models and it's going to work well. Now, when Atmanirbharta became important, the government took some very good policy decisions. The amount of money kept separate for buying indigenous products. So here we are talking of technology and here we are talking of products. There is something where we do not have the technology. But once we develop it and we come to a level where designing, development, we've mastered, or we've come to a fairly good level, and then we find in the Indian ecosystem, the Indian industrial ecosystem, there are people who can productionize. So we went in for productionizing in India. Okay, some help from our friendly foreign countries will be there. And that is the time we realized that what we are doing in the services now, bringing a positive list, means initially when General Rawat was there as the CDS, so 100 plus, 200 plus, 300 plus, 500 plus now. What is it? Components which can be made in India, and there's a timeline. So, for example, there is component A to be made. Is it available today? Yes. Okay, very good. Component B. No, it's not available today, but within about 6 months it will happen. Component C, it will take about a year. Component D, it will take 3 years. That is mentioned. And based on that, you are able to ensure that your imports are controlled. If your imports are controlled, the leverage is controlled, because some country someday may suddenly decide to turn off the taps. There are some countries which may give you something, but the back door leads to some other country. Now, we all suffered during COVID. The whole world suffered during COVID because the semiconductor chips, the flow just froze. Now, the government has immediately taken charge of that.
Corrective.
This is a complete journey. Now, in this conflict also, we have seen what more we need to do, and more lessons will follow as to what is it that we need to get into our own control. You've seen Akash missiles, you've seen BrahMos, you've seen quite a few of these drones which are Indian made, the loitering ammunition, very much. So, will the nature of the next war be same? May not be. So, we will have to again identify what more do we need to do for Atmanirbharta, whether it is about your mobility, whether it's about your communication, it is your firepower, your surveillance, precision striking. So all these things we are looking at it in detail. There is a lot of devolution of power also, where the service headquarters can buy, whether through the capital route. We have had the emergency procurement, 5 of them, now possibly the 6th one. These emergency powers are given to overcome the current deficiencies or vacuum. The capital route is your capability building for the next 10 years, 15 years. All 3 services are now coming and ensuring that as much as possible, Atmanirbharta coming together. So I think what we were as it is doing, with this impetus now, we realized that if, for example, let's hypothetically say that we were dependent on USA, he would have just turned off the taps. But this time he could not. So it further substantiates the fact that what we were doing is right. We need to do more of it.